and it's episode 9 and 10, I believe.
Yeah, episode 9, The Puppet Show, and episode 10, Nightmares. Aired May 5th, 97, and May 12th, 97.
Wow.
See, Jess is a pro, isn't she?
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy.
Do you want me to do a little intro? I actually wrote it down this time.
Oh my god, yes, please.
I
Yeah.
repeat it off the top of my head. So, starting with episode 9, The Puppet Show. It was written by Rob Des Hotel and Dean Batali, who also wrote Never Kill a Boy on a First Date. So we open on a black and white scene of a stretching ballerina and a mysterious dark voice whispering, "I will be whole, I will be new." Then full color pan out to the prep in progress for the Sunnydale High talent show, which Giles has been roped into running. There's a terrible magician, a tuba solo act, a singing Cordelia, yikes, and one very creepy ventriloquist puppet. When the ballerina shows up in the locker room with a missing heart, all fingers point to the dummy, but you wouldn't believe what happens next.
You know what? I love this episode. I really did enjoy it.
This was the highlight of the season for me so far, I have to admit. I have so many notes of like...
Yeah, my notes are massive compared to the following episode.
Yeah, same for us.
Yeah.
First introduction of Principal Snyder. Everything I wrote down was pretty much a Principal Snyder quote for this episode. He was fantastic.
So good. So good. Every word out of his mouth was incredible.
Yeah, it's funny.
Hilarious. And
I love the fact that Giles is roped into doing this. I love it. Get him out of the library. Get him into the action.
There's some amazing acting from him right in the beginning.
Yeah.
So subtle.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
the number of times he like pulls his glasses off and is just like,
yeah, those smiles from him, like
and them they have to be part of it, and he just has that smirk. It's so perfect.
I love that moment of them just ribbing him, making fun of him, and then the instant karma of being like, well, you're going to be in the show now too. Was just oh my god, it was that whole opening was fantastic.
I've got this technique of rolling my eyes when someone annoys me without rolling my eyes. But when Giles is when Principal, is it Snyder or Schneider?
I think it's
Snyder. I think
when Principal Snyder asks them to be involved, you're going to do this. Giles has this smile, non-smile that's amazing. He just really like, yeah, I'm so glad now you were taking the piss, and now you're involved.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful moment, that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, so funny.
And the instant. It just reminds me of that particular dummy. Reminds me of R.L. Stein and Goosebumps.
Yeah, I looked up to know like which came first, but yeah, it's Slappy the dummy. But this was like, I guess about 4 years before this aired, so that had to be the inspiration, right?
I would think so.
Absolutely. And what we know about what was the name of the cursed? Not Monster Hunter, but the cursed person that's in the dummy.
Oh, Sid.
When Sid's our first introduction to Sid is him looking at that ballerina, and it's so dirty, like Dirty Old Man. It was, and he's looking straight at it. I'm like, oh my god.
I actually could not believe that was the opening shot of the episode. There was a number of things that make me go, wow, they wouldn't get away with this.
No.
Yeah, he was saying
times have changed so much. Even though I thought it was a really excellent depiction of high school.
Yeah. I love how everything involved in the talent show is happening on stage. They're not like off on their own doing it. You know what I mean? It's like all on stage.
Everybody at once.
Yeah.
Everyone's prepping. Yeah. Just trying to think of what to talk about because there's so much good, even in that just opening section before they even run the titles. It's just so good.
Oh, Cordelia singing.
Yeah.
The greatest love of all.
Yeah.
Which is about personal hygiene or something.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. This is kind of jumping ahead in my notes, but it's got one of the greatest, dirtiest lines about once you go wood, nothing is good. Nothing is
yeah. Oh my god.
Oh my god. That is so smutty.
Yeah, it is.
Obviously, the guy, they allude to him, he's been around, what, a few hundred years, something like that?
I think
I think
less
it's
than
maybe
100.
30.
Is it 100?
He said that he was a man with the previous Slayer in the 30s.
Right.
Yeah,
I
so
see, right. So he's not that old.
Yeah,
Okay.
so probably 70 or 80 years or so.
Yeah. But I was almost trying to recognize who did the voice of the dummy,
Yeah.
but it was really just performed really well and acted, and I think this is probably one of the best, and I'd say the following episodes as well, constructed episodes, and it was really kind of a detective kind of episode, like not Scooby-Doo, but it had this kind of
I
nice
wrote
vibe
that
to
type
it.
like a procedural cop drama. Like if you watch Castle, or those kind of things where they're like interviewing people, and you kind of don't really. They make you think at the beginning, like, I mean, obviously it's this person, but I mean, there's 40 minutes left in the episode, so you know it's not whoever they think it is.
And they kind of talk about that when they first find out that I can't remember the ballerina's name, who was murdered.
Emily.
Yeah, they have that little powwow about it being a human and not a monster, and what do they do with that information, which I thought was really great. Also, that scene is the only time we've seen police.
Yeah, that's
In Sunnydale, in the school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I wondered about too, because obviously there was an investigation, but then Joyce is like, Buffy, is there something wrong or something going on?
Yeah.
I'm like, did they not send a note home that our student was found with a heart missing? I guess they just gave up at this point.
No, that's totally normal. You get vegetables being eaten, you get
Oh yeah, oh my god, that was one of the lines I loved. It was just summing up the whole season so far. Let me write it down. He's like, quite the reputation this place has: suicide, missing persons, spontaneous cheerleader combustion.
Yeah, that was
so
great.
good.
Did you notice that even though it was cordoned off, there was like, it was full of teachers? That space. Did you notice that random woman who looked like a nurse or something just walk out?
No, I didn't.
It was really odd. It was really
He
odd.
dragged the murder weapon right in front.
nice lit close up.
This is like old hat for them. Like they must have like kids murder bingo at this point in the faculty lounge. Like, oh, I had heart missing. Oh, great.
Does anybody have ballerina? Check.
There's, whenever you have police cordoned off tape, someone always has to walk underneath it. Always.
Yeah, that's true.
That's like a rite of passage when you use that stuff.
Or else you don't know it's there. You don't notice it. You have to have somebody do that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I love the continuous. Is it the cheerleader that gets? The ballerina that gets murdered in the locker rooms. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love the kind of the continuous creepy lighting in that locker room. Because you see it in the very first episode when that body's discovered in the locker room, the very first one, and just don't go in there. If you're in that school, just don't go in there.
That's what Dave said.
That's actually, I think it's the third, possibly the fourth time they've had either murders or because in the previous episode in I, Robot You, Jane, Buffy almost gets electrocuted in the locker room in the shower. So they keep that locker room is just they just keep having students getting attacked or murdered.
Do you think that's got something to do with American school kids in locker rooms where they're like the banter and the bullying and that goes on? Do you think it's something to do with that? Possibly,
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think it's an easy setup for when writers don't know how to get students by themselves, but still be in the school. And locker rooms and bathrooms are kind of the only time.
Or the basement, if you're smoking.
Or the basement. That's right. We'll talk about that later.
I do find that for all the murder that happens in their school, these children have a severe lack of danger perception. Like, oh, there's a sound in this empty locker room. Let me go see who it is. Like, I'm not just gonna bolt because they're like.
Don't
have you not learned by now?
That's
true.
They should have a buddy system, the Sunnydale buddy system.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. That's such a good idea, David.
Yeah.
We need to look after each other down those corridors, don't we?
I like that. I feel like maybe the Hellmouth has this kind of like aura of like making you totally oblivious to what's going on unless you're a part of like the Slayer's crew, because like everybody just seems to not notice that the number of murders and stuff happening. Like there must be some kind of just forgetful magic that gets pumped out of the Hellmouth.
Or the school pumps it through the air vents just to kind of dull the kids down. You know, there's some sort of
But that's an excuse. Joyce never has any clue what's going on.
Well, that was actually just good. Now that you mentioned that, that was one of my big things. Is I was thinking of, you know, I like the themes of the characters and stuff, and Joyce seemed really out of it, you know, with the like she sort of half tries, and then in both episodes, I think actually, and it's not quite enough to be really caring, but she's still a nice mom, but it's not quite like.
Yeah, I think you're probably on about they feel like because there's a Hellmouth emanating this evil, and it's high school, so it's traumatizing enough for all involved that even that people maybe don't realize that there's an extra ominous atmosphere happening all the time.
Yeah,
right. It's just hormones. Kids get murdered all the time. It's teenage hormones.
But I continuously love to hear the different tones of music they use and the approach, especially this episode and then the next we'll discuss later. I just thought the kind of mystery to it and the detective, like you said, Jess, the castle kind of thing. I absolutely love that. I love the kind of how this shows a complete. It's almost got complete freedom within itself to do anything it wants, and its approach rather than just being completely formulaic. Because you always think that when there's a Monster of the Week kind of episode, you think it's just going to be like one note or one tone, but it's kind of all over the place, but within a really well-made structure, you know.
Yeah, and the dialogue, I mean, it's fantastic. I'm lumping that in with music, but it's like, what was it? Was it Xander saying like a cat every 2 seconds?
Because something was in Buffy's room.
Oh, yeah, she kept insisting that puppet attacked her.
Again, like a cat.
Like a cat?
But I think I agree with you. The music in this episode, I don't know if they changed people who are doing it, but it was noticeably good. Excellent. The tone of it was done very, very well. And the episode after this as well was very, very well done. Especially compared with the episode where they introduced the Anointed One, when they're running through the cemetery or whatever. And I thought the music was really, really poorly done. It was just kind of jilted and all over the place. This was really well done. So
this episode almost feels like, to me, if I, like the way I nostalgically think of Buffy and how good it was, and the quippy dialogue and the monsters and everything, like this almost encapsulates all that for me. Like it was the perfect episode. Like the dialogue was snappy, the Monster of the Week was awesome. Like the whole thing was just it was like top notch Buffy. Like
really,
so
I disagree. Sorry, just gonna be a pain in the ass. Pain in the bleep. But
that's staying in. That's staying. There's nothing.
Bad Smudge. But I can stake myself. But for that, but I found it just, I mean, it was entertaining, but it doesn't have the cohesion of character development, and I thought it was a little disjointed, but that's, like, compared to especially the next one, but it's subjective, right?
Yeah. I guess I'm thinking more of, like, the funny aspect and not, like, the deep, like, heart-wrenching, Joss Whedon, miserable, everybody dies kind of thing, which, I agree, it's definitely not that, but I guess in terms of like all the fun stuff that you think about with Buffy, I felt like this was definitely
definitely fun. It's right from the get-go, like with the Giles smiling, and then them being forced to the Scooby team being forced to actually go perform. And
oh my god!
I think we have another very small feature, like really small. We'll briefly mention every so often. It's the really cheesy posters they have on some of the walls. And some of the messaging, like in the library, there's, what does it say? Succeed, read. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't notice that.
So it was.
I noticed one for next episode, but not this one.
We all noticed that.
So the succeed, read. I absolutely love that. It was in the library, and
to read.
There was
And-
another one in this episode as well, and I don't know if it was a poster or a prop, but in the change rooms near the end, there's a demon head in the background when Principal Snyder finds Buffy when she's looking.
Oh,
for
near the makeup table.
just in the back, like behind.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Like it's like a Halloween decoration.
Yeah. It's so clearly there.
In their massive prop room for this incredibly well-funded theater department for a high school.
Holy cow, Jessica! You're right. Like you were saying that too.
Mine had a room, but it was pretty much empty.
Yeah, same.
Our audit, we had a cafetorium, which was where you eat lunch, and then also a stage. That's what we had.
Yeah, actually, we did too. Just made me remember. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a proper auditorium, but I remember friends were in the drama department and visiting them, and they didn't. I don't think there was ever any kind of prop department or change room or costumes or anything.
Yeah.
No.
Was this the first episode we saw Buffy scared of something?
Yeah, it's a good question. First one I remember.
I think it might be.
Yeah.
Because
She freaked out when Angel turned into a vampire, and Joyce ran into the room because she was scared. But that was maybe a different kind of scared. It's like a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was something that creeps her out. Which, hilarious. I found like a little trivia for this episode was that Sarah Michelle Gellar actually had nightmares about puppets after filming this episode. It really freaked her out.
That's amazing.
That's even that line at the very beginning when she says, "Oh, she's scared of dummies," and they go, "Why?" and she's like, "Oh no, there's no story to that. It's just scared of dummies."
Yeah,
that freaked me out. Yeah.
And the most hilarious thing about this episode was the doubt about Buffy's story about the dummy.
Yes.
Like no one was believing Buffy. I'm like, there's fucking vampires for God's sake. So Jesus. I thought that was hilarious.
Xander's explanation of a cat must have come into your room and pounced on your face. 'Cause like that happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
Much more plausible explanation.
I actually jumped. I've got to say I jumped when that dummy was outside the window.
Oh yeah.
They have done those kinds of shots almost perfectly because they had Darla in the previous episode behind through the window.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was scary. Yeah.
They've done those really, really well.
Yeah.
It's like monster peekaboo shot.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know how in schools and universities and in workplaces you're allowed a comfort dog or something that if you've got anxiety you're allowed an animal? I think that kid with the dummy's got some sort of anxiety issue because he's allowed the dummy in the classroom.
It's a support ventriloquist puppet.
I was like, it's sitting on his hand. He's sitting there in class. There's something seriously wrong there.
Something wrong. I thought the same thing.
I thought that was
that's
absolutely
true. I still wouldn't really let you get away with that.
No.
And then obviously the Xander with the puppet is a brilliant scene.
Rad Rob.
Yeah, he was getting me so annoyed, Xander. I was just like, I know in a good way though. Like, he was
especially here's poor Willow having to go to the back of the stacks to look up organ harvesting. All he had to do was sit there at the front. He had one job to watch the damn puppet, and he couldn't even do that.
And by the way, so they make a joke about that in where's my note about that? That in the library they have a demon section in the card catalog.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I wrote it down
We
too.
talked about this before, but I don't know any high school that had a library that has a section for this, and nobody finds that unusual.
Yeah. And the best thing that Jessica just mentioned briefly, it's these different sections within this kind of almost like TARDIS-like library.
Yes.
It's, is that I think Willow and Giles split off. One of them goes to organ harvesting, and the other goes to reanimation theory.
Yeah, and they go different ways too.
Genius, absolutely genius.
Yeah.
I want a complete list of how they created categories for that library.
Someone has definitely put a graph together of all the sections, all the card, the way it's all split up the library. Just to note, I need to put some money in the meter, so we've got 5 minutes until
Okay,
we'll
thanks.
just start it up again.
Sure.
Sure.
Oh yeah, I should have done the
No,
Zoom
that's
meeting,
okay.
and then we would run out of time. I could do it again, or I'm not sure, but
Uh,
I don't know if we're discussing like getting to the end, but there's so many Principal Snyder quotes that I want to say.
Yeah.
So
I
love-
want to mention when Buffy's investigating Morgan, she's walking to the high school, and it looks like she's wearing Angel's jacket still
Oh yeah.
that he
yeah.
gave her. At least I think it is. And it's interesting because he's not in the episode at all.
Yeah.
Not even a mention. But I think it's supposed to be, because it doesn't really fit her. It's a little bit too big. And it
Yeah.
looks like it's the same jacket. So I thought if that was done intentionally, that was a great continuity of just having that still going.
yeah.
I think she's worn it here and there since she
has.
got it. So yeah, I think that's intentional. I think that must be. I didn't even notice that. That's good catch.
I've got to say that is it Demon Hunter? Is that how the?
Yeah. I think
the-
so. Yeah.
I loved that fight scene with Buffy.
Oh yeah, the reveal. Oh, so good.
That absolutely ridiculous
yeah.
chandelier.
I was gonna say, Alex,
Which landed perfectly on her.
I was just gonna say, like, that was so fake looking, and then suddenly
Yeah.
she can't get up, and now she's weak.
That brings me to a big issue I have with a lot of superhero type shows. They never really do a good job of saying how strong Buffy is, because there are some episodes she can do things that no human can even come close to. But this one, she's having trouble lifting the chandelier, which is only about her size. So,
Yeah.
And the other thing is,
not
like in the
consistent.
next one, she gets injured. She gets
Yeah.
injured by. We'll talk about that later. But she gets injured. But in this, she'd have a whole broken set of ribs.
Yes.
And Dave
Yeah.
was saying if she had a concussion, she
Yeah, if
probably
we-
would have had a head.
A head
thing,
wound, and
like a
they didn't
head
put
wound.
no makeup on her head at all.
Yeah.
I think it's just like whatever the plot demands is
Exactly.
what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
She can punch holes in lockers locks, but
And
can't
also
lift a prop chandelier.
And the puppet not being able to walk around and do all these things, like, in order to do what he had to do, that bothered me. It's like, he doesn't have real legs. How can he do this?
And the legs though. When you see that shot, the little leg.
Yeah, yeah.
Going across.
I love the noise in her room, the little pitter patter, like.
Oh,
Yeah, that's really quite scary.
it reminds me of the first Child's Play, except that had a better budget, so they did it a little better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. And the puppet holding the knife, trying to stab her
yeah.
under the chandelier.
Oh my god!
It was so cool.
When it comes to the end, when he's stabbing that demon in the neck,
Yeah.
I was in tears. I was so happy. So happy, honestly.
I love that.
And
Yeah.
there's a little joke. I wish I'd made a note about it. When Buffy presses him up after she gets up out of the chandelier, she fights him. She presses him up against the wall and some sort of sarcastic throwaway line.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a note. I'll probably mention it next time, but it's a brilliant setup, and I would
like
say. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Oh no, go ahead.
I would say it's before we kind of end. We've got a couple of minutes, but I would say it's got one of the most intelligent endings because you set it up on stage, the curtain goes up.
Yeah, that was
so
brilliant.
good.
You didn't have to have the stuff after the credits, which was great.
Best ending of.
So good.
I wrote
I-
great
I don't-
ending.
I don't get it. What is it? Avant-garde?
Brilliant.
And then
Oh
Absolutely
my
brilliant.
god.
them performing even more
Like
afterwards.
with Oedipus and all that stuff.
The Oedipus Rex. Oh my god.
So incredible. So
Do you think the credits at the end was those characters riffing to trying to explain what's just happened on stage, or was that their act?
No, that was their act. I
I
think.
think that was their act. Yeah.
But I read that a lot of it was like improv, like Willow running off stage. That she just did that.
Oh really?
That was Alison Hannigan's decision to do that. And apparently, I didn't catch this, but like the laughing is actually the crew thought it was really
Oh,
funny.
that's
They
so
laughed.
funny.
Yeah.
That
So
was brilliant. I'm glad you brought that up, Alex. Yeah, the ending is priceless
It's
on this.
genius.
yeah,
Let's talk a little bit more about that episode because it was.
Yeah.
I think it was hilarious.
so good.
I know it wasn't, everyone's cup of tea, Smudge.
That's mine, and actually, I realized why. But maybe I don't want to go into the big.
well,
No, please tell us why.
to that actually because it wasn't necessarily mine either, and honestly, I just found it really, really slow. Like they drew out they established the idea of the episode, and then there was about 20 minutes of almost nothing, and it didn't seem to have the same flow that some of the other episodes had.
Yeah.
And for me, I think one of the things was like the characters. There was no backstory to the characters, or sort of like what their background. Like for example, in the next episode, we get all the fears, and so you get to know the characters more directly. And this one's fun, but it doesn't have that sort of that depth. Maybe I'm always looking for that, but
I can't remember. We talked about a while ago that Joss Whedon and other writers, they do a really great job at taking actual problems that teenagers have and writing these supernatural ideas.
Yeah.
This one kind of seems like they've missed that point.
Yeah.
And almost every other episode this season has that. So this one is kind of like the only thing that's actually relatable to real life is that the students don't want to be in a talent show.
Some of them. Courtney is all for it.
I understand that. I would never have gotten in my high school talent shows.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I loved it not for like the characters, but I guess it's hard for me to say because I don't like. This is me watching it again, so I already know very well who everyone is. So I guess I couldn't say from a perspective of someone who's never seen it before how they would feel about it. But I guess I love like the comedy of it was just classic like for me, the banter, the stuff. And I liked what we discussed already, like the murder mystery type thing. And the fact that like they didn't cheat, like the magician was weaved throughout the episode with them interviewing all the kids, and he was always there doing terrible tricks and like pick a card. No, this card. Like and the non-disappearing assistant. Like I liked that they didn't cheat. Like he was there, he was always there. And then they did the little reveal when she and Sid go at it in their little puppet fight. When they each think the other's the demon.
Yeah, they had excellent use of just extra students in this. They seem like the writing for that was excellent. Especially whenever they showed them preparing for the talent show, every student has their own thing they're doing, and they're consistent. They're there in the background doing their thing all the time. That was actually really well done. Yeah.
So I like that part, and I guess maybe it was the Principal Snyder. I just want to read all of his like things, his quotes, because I just loved it so much. It really sold it for me. Like I guess the two mentions of the Principal Flutie, kids need understanding. Kids are human beings. That's the kind of woolly-headed liberal thinking that leads to being eaten.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
But he was eating line.
Yeah.
And the other one when he's with Giles and he just says, "Kids, I don't like them."
I don't like them.
Yeah.
That is
so good. He's absolutely.
And then lecturing Buffy about loitering is like, there's these things I will not tolerate. Students loitering after school, horrible murders with hearts being removed, and also smoking.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the writing for him is brilliant.
Actually, Jessica, you just brought up something interesting that I just realized about the writing is that, the writers, they're good at one of the reasons it's funny is there's such dark, serious things mixed in really well with really flippant things, and that's a great contrast.
Yeah.
I think
I love that. Yeah. I might be wrong about this, but the principal, I swear you don't see him walking anywhere. He just appears out of nowhere.
Well, there was even like a la the murder mystery kind of castle. There was even a shot where they showed him all shadowed in the dark as if, maybe it's him. Maybe he's the killer.
His ears. Well, sorry, this is about the actor. But his lit up like.
Yeah, because it's his quirk ears showing.
It's shades of Quark happening there.
Yeah, Quark. Yeah, that's
my Mrs. Vicky. She walked into the room when he appeared, and she said, "Oh, it's Quark." Like, yeah, awesome. I'm so happy he appeared because I haven't seen the show since its original run, so it's a real kind of foggy memory of the show itself. So it's really great to see these really famous characters appear now. I've got to say, the dummy with the knife is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. When he's like, almost like it's almost like some sort of ceremonial stabbing he has to do to kill the demon, the heart. And Vicky's going to kill me for saying this, but she said that when he stabs it, it's almost like he has an orgasm. Because it's like and then he dies, doesn't it? Because it's brilliant.
He's very sexual. Like when he's talking to Buffy and he like almost zones out, his eyes closed. He's like,
We just said the previous Slayer was nubile.
Yeah.
And she has to remove his hand from her knee or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, on the what do you call it, in the rafters?
Yeah.
Is this the first time? What I love, this is one of my favorite things. I think we briefly talked about in the first episode. Is that I love seeing new locations on a show. You know, like when you see extended sets, the budget gets a little bit higher, and like with the Bronze, you see little extra spaces, the manager's office or something like that. I love seeing these new areas in the school. Like where all the stage props are kept. Is this the first time? Is it the first time we've seen the actual hall where the performances are as well?
I believe so.
Yeah,
the auditorium.
I think so. Yeah, the auditorium.
I love seeing all these new locations. It kind of just builds on it, and
you
fantastic.
know what I like? It's a small thing. It's directly related. Is that the teacher with the dummy where they looked and it was gone? The dummy was gone. Just looking in that little cupboard was interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, there's little decorations for like Christmas or something in there.
It's a little
like
Christmas tree. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cute.
I love seeing these random teachers. These random teachers we don't.
First time they've named a teacher.
Never see again.
Really?
Yeah, I think this is the first time there've been other teachers, but whenever they name them, they get killed.
Wow.
So first time they've named one that I think didn't get killed. It was great.
What was that character called that had the puppet?
Morgan.
Morgan. I thought his acting was really good. Like he was getting. It was like a moral story about the use of drugs. And he was it was like cold turkey for him, not having the dummy. So when he was in that classroom trying to get the I keep calling it a dummy, but when you keep seeing it with the puppet, it's like he's really getting withdrawal symptoms. He's really skittish.
I commented on that too. Like, it's like hands.
But they talk about that how it's not him, and they rejected the brain later because he's has brain cancer. So it's supposed to be him in actual physical pain. But it's interesting because they kind of use that as a setup for his connection with the dummy. And they didn't explore that as much as they could have, which was interesting.
Whose brain was that?
Morgan's.
That's Morgan's. Yeah, it was very bouncy.
Brain cancer.
Medical history.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
I noticed that when you watch that in HD, you notice his, I think his year of birth was 79, something like that, and there was a few extra details on the screen. But I think you guys, I think David, you pointed that out sometimes when you look at, they actually build quite a profile on some of these students, some of these people, and you don't really see it unless you're kind of looking at it. And now with HD, you get a little bit more detail. Yeah. Like in The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, there's one of the guys that's trying to resuscitate someone. He's going to put paddles on his chest and he gets his arms bitten off. But before that, because of the HD version, you notice he's got pierced ears. And I never noticed that of watching the film for like 10, 15 years. That he had
Wow.
And I think the same thing's happening when you go back and watch some of these shows. There's little details like those little things in the distance and the posters and things like that. You really kind of hone in on them now. Obviously, with rewatching, that'll happen anyway. But it's nice to be able to see some of these extra details, isn't it?
Yeah, I noticed when they first start investigating, they when they're talking to the students, they talk to one of the students. I can't remember, I don't know if they ever said his name, and he's in a classroom and he's carrying 2 tennis balls. And I never noticed that. And the first time I go, oh, why is this guy walking around with 2 tennis balls? But then later he's in the background in a talent show doing juggling.
Oh, wow.
So there's some continuity that they thought about even beyond like stuff that they ever tried to involve in the story, which was really great.
Yeah, that's great.
That's really fascinating. Yeah, that's a really nice attention to detail.
Yeah.
That's someone on
Yeah.
the production crew or the writing that's gone, right, we need this. We just a little flavour of character and things that need to connect later on. That's great.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of my favourite episodes so far.
I loved it.
Yeah. One of the best ones, other than Armin Shimmerman's lines, was Giles doing the power circle.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
god.
So he's like, okay, that's it.
For like half a second. That was so good.
I love
that.
And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I love that and Giles getting rid of Cordelia by commenting on her hair.
That was brilliant.
Oh, that is so
that.
good, yeah.
Yeah.
Her acting in this was great.
Yeah,
too.
she's great. She's a great actress.
Yeah.
She is in her own world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what's happening. I love how everything just draws like gravity with her, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, when she's like, oh, Emma was like my best friend. It was Emily. Whatever. Like, it could have been me. It's like, we can dream. I love that whole exchange.
Yeah, I love that Xander's line there.
Yeah.
I think that was great. So just bear with me one moment. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
make
Oh,
sure
did
it's
you want me to finish up with the
yes, absolutely.
deaths and stuff?
That'd be great.
Well, one more little thing I wrote trivia. The tagline or like the ad for this episode was "Evil never toys around," which I loved.
That sounds like an after hours at Toys R Us, though.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, so the death count was 2 humans, 1 demon, and 1 demon hunter puppet soul.
Oh yeah, because the puppet doesn't die; it's the soul. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's subtle.
Oh, and we had a curse, sort of, for you, Alex, that we missed the curse of the Brotherhood of the Seven.
Yes.
Where was that?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it was them that put
Oh,
the
of
curse
course,
on him,
yeah.
right? So they're the Brotherhood of the Seven.
Yeah, he had killed the other 6 he mentioned previously. So I did want to say that demon was actually pretty good. The makeup on it. They only saw him on screen for a very brief time, but he was very well done.
Yeah, the makeup was great for something. Yeah, again, like the last, like what was with iRobot with Moloch, like they're barely on screen, but the amount of time and effort to make such it was really so good. So.
Yeah.
And it was a very clever way to get away from having to transition between full-skinned lizard demon thing to demon. That was very clever. I loved that.
True.
It's almost like he did his own Superman inside the box. Let's get rid of this skin.
Well, finally, one of his magic tricks worked.
Oh.
Yeah. Ah, very. That I didn't even think about that. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. I didn't even think that's great, Jess. That's so funny. That's so funny. But yeah, Vicky, my fiance, she loved watching these 2 episodes, and she hasn't watched any of the previous ones with me yet, but she absolutely loved it. And what was one of the other comments? She said, "How have they got time to do the research around the school? I don't get it." And I'm going to look for some sort of Buffy map, but maybe I should wait a few more seasons before we look at that. About
That's cool.
where these extra spaces are and all of that.
Yeah.
And that space where they kept all the costumes all felt very, very real, didn't it?
Yeah. It really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that's some sort of somewhere, like some sort of performance house, or maybe even to do with behind the scenes in where they made the show, something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is one thing I find about the show I think it's always well done, is even though in behind the scenes their sets are in different places possibly, they never seem disconnected. They do a really good job at keeping everything feeling like it's in the same space.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is wonderful. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's very important that the geography of where you're in a room, like even just the way you shoot a room and different buildings, like you say, Dave, it's just super important that everything connects really well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love in a roundabout way. That's what I love about the next episode. It pulls that apart.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.